My wife was pregnant with our second child, and she was adamant about getting rid of it. I begged her for an entire night, but the next morning, she went to the hospital anyway. In the hospital corridor, I overheard her on the phone with her best friend. My heart belongs to Jacob. I could never have another man's baby. If Jacob hadn't been suddenly sent to prison back then, and if I hadn't been pregnant, do you really think he would have had the chance to marry me? After hanging up, she stared at an old photo on her phone. In it, she was in a wedding dress, nestled against Jacob, her smile radiant. Hey, excuse me, you're blocking the way. I was standing at the corner of the hallway, and I realized I was blocking the only exit. After a series of apologies, I ducked into the stairwell. The man who had just passed was lovingly supporting his heavily pregnant wife, his face a mask of pure happiness. The thought of my own wife, so determined to end her pregnancy, sent a wave of despair through me. I pulled out a cigarette, but before I could light it, my wife's words echoed in my mind, each one a sharp sting. We had been married for 10 years, yet she still kept a wedding photo with another man on her phone. And the son I had poured my entire soul into raising for 9 years wasn't mine. The realization shattered my composure. I collapsed onto the stairs, burying my head in my hands as sobs racked my body. She had gotten pregnant shortly after we started dating. We rushed into a wedding, never even taking the time for proper wedding photos. I had suggested we take them many times over the years, but she always refused, saying she wouldn't look good while pregnant. As long as we're together forever, she'd said. Why do we need one picture? For 10 years, I believed we were deeply in love. I opened my phone, scrolling through the photos of our happy family of 3. I had documented every beautiful moment over the years. Tens of thousands of pictures filled my phone's memory. There were shots of us walking hand in hand on the beach during our honeymoon. Our first family portrait, taken right after our son was born. I captured every birthday party for her and our son, but most of the photos were of her. I loved her to the point of losing myself. She even used to say that marrying me must have used up all the good luck she had for a lifetime. Just a few days ago, we were planning a trip for our 10th anniversary. She had joked that we should celebrate it in a grander style than our actual wedding. I watched the joyous smile on her face and thought about how I would love her even more, ensuring she had that same smile for our 20th and 30th anniversaries. That beautiful dream was shattered the moment she discovered she was pregnant again. The crushed cigarette in my palm felt like my crumbling marriage, and the ache in my chest intensified. But a part of me refused to believe it. I must have misheard. My wife couldn't possibly keep a photo with another man. She couldn't have said those things. She would never be so cruel as to end the life of our child. Our child. I had to find her. She was a kind person. She would surely change her mind and keep our baby. I burst into the clinic, but the doctor told me she had just left, likely to handle the paperwork for the procedure. My heart plummeted, and a raw panic clawed at my throat. I ran frantically down the hall, searching for her. Finally, I saw her at the far end of the corridor, with her best friend, Chloe. I rushed toward them, but my wife's words stopped me dead in my tracks. Jacob is getting out of prison soon. Our family can finally be together again. I can't keep this baby. A violent tremor ran through my body. It felt as if all my strength had been drained away, and I couldn't take another step. Chloe was so angry that her hand, holding the surgical consent form, was shaking. So you called me here not to come with you for a checkup, but to sign off on you getting an abortion? My wife shrugged nonchalantly. My body is only for Jacob's children. No one else is worthy. The pain in my chest was unbearable, like my heart was being physically torn out. I couldn't breathe. 10 years of marriage, and in the end, I wasn't worthy. Chloe's anger boiled over. She slapped the consent form against my wife's face. Do you even remember you have a husband? He loves you so much. How do you think he'd feel if he knew the son he's raised isn't his? And now you're going to kill his only biological child, divorce him, and run off to marry Jacob? How can you do this to him? My wife stared at her friend, her eyes wide. For a moment, I thought Chloe's words had gotten through to her. I was about to step forward to plead with her to keep our child. But then she laughed. A cold, dismissive sound. He loves me too much. He could never leave me. I'll just sweet-talk him a little, and he won't be angry anymore. It's worked for years, hasn't it? And who said anything about divorcing him? If I divorce him, who's going to help me and Jacob raise our son? A profound sense of powerlessness washed over me as I watched her walk toward the operating room. I stumbled out of the hospital, the sympathetic glances of strangers passing me by. They must have thought I had just suffered a terrible loss. I walked aimlessly along the street for what felt like hours. The sky grew dark, and a sudden downpour began. Pedestrians ran for cover, but I just kept walking, a lost soul in the storm. I found shelter under an empty awning, standing before a large glass window, tears streaming silently down my face. Suddenly, the lights inside the shop flickered on, illuminating displays of tiny baby clothes, little socks, and matching parent-child outfits embroidered with the words Dad, Mom, and Baby. The word Dad burned my eyes. The dam broke, and I cried out in anguish, my wife's words replaying in my head. Her body was only for Jacob's children. I wasn't worthy. After 10 years as her husband, I wasn't worthy. She said her heart belonged to Jacob. So what was I? From the day we met, I had given her everything. When she had severe morning sickness, I quit my job to be by her side constantly. When her pregnancy cravings hit, I prepared 6 meals a day, each one carefully planned according to nutritional guides. When her feet swelled in the final trimester, I barely slept, waking at all hours to massage them. I was with her for every single checkup. After our son was born, my sleepless nights continued, caring for the baby and for her. By the time her postpartum recovery period was over, she was glowing and healthy, while I was a shadow of my former self. I raised our son almost single-handedly. Her only job was to be beautiful. On top of providing for the family, I had to cater to her every emotional need. The slightest thing that displeased her would trigger a tirade. For 10 long years, I gave her my heart and soul. And it was all a calculated lie. She loved another man, and she used me, an honest man, to raise his child. Her occasional kindness, her moments of affection, they were all fake. Every time we were intimate, she was thinking of him. I never imagined that the person I cherished most would be the one to stab me in the back. Dark clouds rolled across the sky, punctuated by flashes of lightning and rumbles of thunder. I tilted my head back and screamed at the heavens, rainwater and tears mixing on my face. Passers-by stared, their eyes filled with pity. Lost in my grief, the sharp ring of my phone pulled me back to reality. It was my wife. I hesitated, and the ringing stopped. But a moment later, it started again. I answered, and her angry voice immediately filled my ear. "Leo, where the hell are you? Why didn't you pick up Alex from school? He waited at the gate for an hour and had to walk home in the rain. What could possibly be more important than your son? What kind of father are you?" The sky was completely dark now. I realized how late it had gotten. I had been picking Alex up from school since he was in kindergarten. This was the first time I had ever forgotten. The thought that the boy I had loved and cared for all these years wasn't my own son sent a fresh wave of bitterness through me. He was so young, so innocent. Her yelling continued. When I remained silent, she must have sensed something was wrong. "Leo, why aren't you saying anything? When are you coming home?" My throat was raw. I swallowed hard, barely able to speak. Thinking of everything she had done, my voice was laced with ice when I finally replied. "What's the matter? Am I not playing the part of the stand-in dad well enough for you?" There was a pause on the other end. "Stand-in dad? What are you talking about? Alex came home soaking wet and has a fever. You need to get back here now." The words I wanted to scream were trapped in my throat. Seeing that I was truly angry this time, her tone softened. "Honey, I can hear the rain. Are you outside? Please don't get sick." Her sudden concern almost made me cry again. Her voice was laced with urgency. "Leo, please say something. I'm so worried about you. Just come home, okay? Alex's fever is getting worse, and he keeps asking for his daddy." The rain had lessened, but I was soaked to the bone. I hadn't felt the cold before, but now I was shivering uncontrollably, letting out a series of sneezes. "Leo, did you get caught in the rain? Where are you? I'll drive over and get you," she pleaded. I looked up at the sky, fighting back the tears. The glare of a streetlight stung my swollen eyes. She asked me again and again where I was. She had never shown this much concern for me before. A bitter smile twisted my lips. If only none of this had ever happened. But it had. There was no going back. The thought that she had just terminated our child extinguished the last ember of hope in my heart. "Sarah, let's get a divorce." I hadn't called her by her name in years. It had always been sweetheart, darling, or my love. Every pet name held all the love I had for her. I always felt calling her by her name was too distant, even though she usually called me by my full name, only occasionally calling me honey. She didn't expect me to be the one to bring up divorce. The silence on the phone stretched on. I was freezing, my body shaking, a fever setting in. Finally, I heard her sobbing. "Leo, is this because I got rid of the baby? Are you angry with me? But I already explained, I didn't want another child to take away the love we have for Alex. And raising a baby is so hard. I didn't want you to have to go through all that again. I was thinking about our family. Why can't you understand? And now you want to divorce me over it? Do you have any idea how much that hurts me? She cried as if she were the victim, as if I were the one in the wrong. I let out a cold laugh. It's because I'm not worthy of having you carry my child. Sarah, go find someone who is. We're done. I hung up and blocked her number, along with all her social media. It was the first time I had ever blocked her. In the past, she was the one who would block me during a tantrum, and I would frantically search for her, eventually giving in and apologizing. The fever was getting worse. I dragged my heavy body toward a nearby pharmacy. After 2 steps, my phone rang again. It was Alex's smartwatch. I didn't answer. I knew it was Sarah, using his watch after realizing I had blocked her. The phone rang several more times. I ignored them all. Then, a voice message came through. I opened it to the sound of Alex crying hysterically. Daddy, please come home. I feel so sick. I think I'm going to die. Mommy won't take me to the doctor, and she won't give me any medicine. Daddy, I'm so cold and hungry. Can you please come home soon? Hearing his voice, I couldn't hold back any longer. I had raised that boy. I couldn't bear to let him suffer. Forgetting about my own medicine, I hailed a cab and rushed home. The moment I walked in the door, Alex threw himself into my arms. Daddy, you're finally back. Did you and Mommy have a fight? She said you were never coming back, and I was so scared. He sounded congested, and when I touched his forehead, it was burning up. I quickly found the first aid kit. We both took some medicine. Then I gave him a warm bath and made 2 bowls of hot noodle soup. Sarah came out of the bedroom several times, wanting to talk, but I kept my face a stony mask, and she would retreat back into the room. Normally, after a procedure like hers, she would be weak, and I would have taken care of her every need. But now, after she had so heartlessly destroyed our child, I felt nothing but emptiness. Before bed, seeing that I still refused to speak to her, she walked right up to me and began to cry silently. The sight of her pale face, drained of color from the abortion, and her wounded expression made my heart clench with a sharp, familiar pain. The next second, she threw herself into my arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Leo, are you really going to keep ignoring me? You never used to let me cry. I've been crying for so long, and you haven't tried to comfort me at all. This is breaking my heart. Please, just hold me. I should have pushed her away, but I couldn't bring myself to be that cruel. I didn't embrace her, either. I simply told her that Alex still had a high fever and that I needed to look after him. When she finally stopped crying, a large patch of my shirt was soaked with her tears. Seeing that my attitude had softened slightly, she managed a tearful smile. She told me to take good care of Alex and kissed my cheek. When I didn't respond, she walked back to her room, dejected. I slept with Alex in his small bedroom, squeezed onto his little bed. He held onto me tightly, even in his sleep, as if he sensed that we might be separated soon. Watching him sleep, a war raged within me. He wasn't my biological son, but for 9 years, I had loved him as if he were. He was closer to me than to his own mother. I didn't know if I should tell him the truth, or how I could even begin to explain it. My head was spinning, and the cold medicine was making me drowsy. Soon, I fell into a deep, restless sleep. I dreamed a long, chaotic dream. I was back at the moment I first saw Sarah, so full of life and passion. I was instantly captivated. Then the scene shifted to the day Alex was born. Sarah was holding him, nestled against me, saying that our little family would be happy together forever. Suddenly, a man in black appeared and snatched Alex away. Alex was screaming. I ran after them. But Sarah was on the floor, clinging desperately to my leg, yelling to the man, "Jacob, take our son and run." The name jolted me awake. I sat up, my back drenched in sweat. I checked my phone. It was only 4 in the morning. Lying back down, sleep was impossible. I stared at the ceiling, my mind flooded with memories of the happy times with Sarah. When the sun came up at 6, I got up and went to the kitchen. I had just finished preparing a large breakfast when Sarah emerged from her room. She sat down in her usual spot, as if nothing had happened. I placed a bowl of porridge in front of her, along with her favorite scrambled eggs with shrimp. As I was about to sit down, she spoke, her tone utterly casual, but her words colder than ice. "Jacob gets out of prison today. He doesn't have any family in this city. I have to go pick him up." In that instant, my heart froze solid. She calmly finished her breakfast, then changed into a bright red dress and applied a matching shade of bold, red lipstick. The makeup hid the paleness left by the abortion, making her look vibrant. She slipped on her high heels and walked out the door with a light, cheerful step. She was so eager to see Jacob that she didn't even ask how her son, who had been feverish all night from the rain, was doing. I sat at the table, staring blankly at the breakfast in front of me. Only when the door clicked shut did I snap out of my stupor. Why? Why did she have to trample on my love for her like this? Was it because I loved her too much? Was she so certain that I would tolerate anything, that I would let her control me for the rest of my life? The pain was overwhelming. I covered my face with my hands and let out a choked cry. I tried to stifle my sobs, but I ended up waking Alex. He rubbed his eyes and walked toward me, his voice bright with an unmistakable excitement. "Daddy, did Mommy go to pick up my real dad?" I froze, unable to believe what I had just heard. Seeing my silence, he asked again, "Daddy, did Mommy go pick up my real dad?" Shock and grief washed over me. How could the boy I had raised with my own hands ask such a question? Sarah must have told him something. A 9-year-old wouldn't know about these things otherwise. "Alex, you don't understand adult matters. Don't say things like that." Ever since learning the truth, my feelings for Alex had been a confusing mix. I hadn't wanted to deal with him, but seeing him sick and miserable had softened my heart. He was just a child. He wasn't to blame for his mother's actions. But his next words pierced my heart like a dagger. "I do understand, Daddy. I've known for a long time that you're not my real dad. Mommy told me I had to be nice to you until my real dad got out. Otherwise, no one would take care of me. It's great now. From now on, I'll have 2 dads to love me." His expression was perfectly normal, as if he were discussing the weather. There was even a hint of joy in his eyes. I knelt and gripped his small arms, looking at him in disbelief. "Alex, did your mother teach you to say these things? You knew all along. Why didn't you tell me? I thought we were best friends. I had raised him since he was a baby. His mother had barely been involved. I thought we shared the closest bond, but he had been keeping this enormous secret from me." His attitude was an even greater shock than his mother's betrayal. He reacted in a way I'd never seen before. He violently shook me off, stepping back from me. The 9-year-old boy stared at me with pure hatred. "My mom was right. You're just a pathetic, useless loser. The second you heard my real dad was coming back, you showed your true colors. Let me tell you, my real dad's blood runs in my veins. Don't think that just because you raised me for 9 years, I'll take your side and help you bully him." I stared at him, dumbfounded. His face was still that of a child, but his words were so venomous. I let out a hollow laugh and wiped a tear from my eye. I finally understood. The child of a venomous snake carries venom too. In his simple, black and white world, 9 years of love and care meant nothing compared to a shared bloodline. It was true what they said. You can't raise another man's child as your own. I had raised a viper. I collapsed onto the floor. I had given everything to this family, and they had seen it all. And this was my reward. My endless patience and tolerance were, in their eyes, signs of weakness. 10 years. It took me 10 years to finally see the truth. They had pushed me too far. There was no reason to hold on to the past any longer. If they wanted to be ruthless, then so would I. Alex sat at the table. He took one bite of a scallion pancake and threw down his chopsticks. "This is cold. How am I supposed to eat this? Go heat it up." He shot me a contemptuous look, an expression that was a perfect mirror of his mother's. "You know I have a cold, but you don't even care enough to look after me properly. You probably want me to stay sick. You're a vicious, evil dad." Still reeling from his earlier outburst, his words stunned me again. With a cold laugh, I walked to the table and swept every dish onto the floor. The porcelain shattered into 1,000 pieces. "Alex, I am not your real father, so I have no obligation to take care of you. If you ever dare to speak to me in that tone again, I will spank you so hard you won't be able to sit for a week." The sight of the shattered dishes on the floor brought me a strange sense of satisfaction. Alex stared in stunned silence for a few seconds before bursting into tears. "You yelled at me. You've never yelled at me before. You're only doing this because you know my real dad is coming back. You're just jealous of him." His accusation was so absurd I had to laugh. Jealous of him? What is there to be jealous of? That he's a societal degenerate? Or that he's been in prison? I had already looked into it. Jacob had been locked up for assault, causing grievous bodily harm. He had paid a hefty compensation and was sentenced to 10 years. He was the classic type who dropped out of school early to become a street punk, spending his days starting fights until he finally landed himself in prison. My dismissive tone must have bruised Alex's fragile ego. His face turned red with anger, and he pointed a finger at me, screaming, You useless idiot. You don't know anything. My dad hurt that guy to protect my mom. He's a hero. Not like you. That time Mom almost got into a fight on the street, you just acted like a coward and dragged her away. I remembered that day. We were out shopping when a passerby accidentally bumped into Sarah. She started a huge argument over nothing. The man apologized repeatedly, but she was relentless and even tried to hit him. I tried to calm her down, which only made her angrier. She called me useless for watching her get bullied, but she was clearly the one doing the bullying. The man had only brushed against her lightly in a crowded street and had apologized profusely. Alex was there, and I didn't want him to learn such behavior, so I had to physically drag her away. All this time, in his eyes, that was an act of cowardice. And his biological father, who had beaten a man to a pulp because a waiter accidentally spilled water on Sarah's new dress and muttered a quiet reply to her torrent of abuse, that man was a hero. Fine. That was just fine. All my years of teaching and guidance had been for nothing. They couldn't compete with the blood that flowed in Alex's veins. Genetics are a powerful thing, and the genes of a scoundrel are even more so. I wasn't going to argue with a 9-year-old anymore. His hero was his real dad, and he could do whatever he wanted from now on. He wasn't mine to worry about. It took me a full 2 hours to pack up all of Sarah and Alex's belongings. More than half the things in our home belonged to them. Sarah never hesitated to spend money on herself and Alex, but she was incredibly stingy with me. I'd worn the same underwear for years before she'd buy me new ones. I hadn't bought a new piece of clothing in ages. I was the sole provider for the family. My salary was good, well above average. But over the years, we hadn't saved a single penny. I even had to take on freelance work in my spare time to help Sarah pay off her credit card debt. She never once considered the pressure I was under. She only knew how to take. Well, life was about to get a lot easier. No more hustling for extra cash. Alex, being a child, didn't understand why I was suddenly packing everything into suitcases and bags. He happily followed me around, adding his own toys to the boxes. Daddy, are you taking me and Mommy on a trip? Where are we going this time? Are we going to Xinjiang, where Mommy has always wanted to go? He chattered on about all the delicious food and fun things to do there. Then, as if a thought suddenly struck him, he ran in front of me and said innocently, Daddy, can we bring my real dad on the trip this time? He's been in prison for so many years, he must be dying to see the world. Please, can we take him? He and Mommy haven't seen each other in so long. It would be a great chance for them to reconnect. I didn't have the energy to argue. I just smiled and said yes. The boy was certainly dutiful, just not to me. Hearing my answer, Alex was so happy he started jumping around me in circles. Seeing him like this no longer pained me. Instead, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. Only I knew how much effort I had poured into raising and educating him over the years. Anyone who has raised a child knows it's more mentally exhausting than any job. After I finished packing, I stood up to stretch my back. Just then, Alex's smartwatch rang. He glanced at the watch, then shot a furtive look at me before running to the balcony to answer the call. He covered the watch with one hand and whispered, Mommy. The call lasted 4 or 5 minutes. Through the glass door, I couldn't hear what he was saying, but from his changing expressions, I could tell they were talking about me and Jacob. As soon as he hung up, I went into the bathroom and locked the door. I opened my phone and found the automatically uploaded recording of his recent call. I had never used this feature before. I never thought I'd have to invade my child's privacy to control him. I had only enabled it as a just-in-case precaution. I never dreamed that just-in-case would actually arrive. After listening to the recording, a cold fury settled over me. Their little scheme was quite ambitious. They were planning to bleed me dry, to take everything. It seemed Jacob was eager to get himself sent back to prison. Fine, I would play along. And this time, I'd make sure Sarah went with him. My initial thought was to simply walk away from this mess. They weren't worth my time. But now they were targeting not just me, but my parents' assets as well. That was a line they shouldn't have crossed. They brought this on themselves. When I came out of the bathroom, Alex was waiting for me. The hesitant, cautious look on his face almost made me laugh. No matter how malicious, he was still just a 9-year-old child. Alex glanced toward the front door several times before finally steeling himself to speak. Daddy, you know my real dad doesn't have any family in this city, just me and Mommy. He just got out and he's homeless. It's so sad. So could you maybe? I knew what was coming. It was all part of their plan from the phone call. Sarah's original idea was to bring Jacob to live with us, pretending he was a distant cousin who needed a place to stay while he looked for a job. But her Unexpected pregnancy had derailed that plan. If she hadn't been so insistent on the abortion, I might never have discovered the truth. Perhaps it was fate, giving me a chance to see the truth after 10 years of thankless sacrifice. I cut him off. Alex, you want your real dad to stay with us for a while, right? Alex nodded furiously. Daddy, I promise, as soon as my real dad finds a job, he'll find his own place and move out. I knew you were the best, Daddy. You're the kindest person in the world. I scoffed internally. Just a little while ago, I was a useless loser. Now I was the kindest person in the world. Alex happily ran to the front door and opened it. And there, for the first time, I saw Jacob. He looked back at me, a hint of triumph in his eyes. 10 years in prison hadn't washed away his street punk aura. It had only sharpened it with age. I could see how his looks might have appealed to a naive young girl like Sarah back in the day. Sarah's face darkened when she saw I wasn't making any move to welcome him. Leo, where are your manners? Is this how you treat a guest? Before I could reply, someone else spoke up. Mommy, my real dad isn't a guest. He's family. Sarah beamed with pride. Jacob looked moved to the verge of tears. The three of them embraced, their eyes red. I stood off to the side, a complete outsider in my own home. When they finally entered the living room, they saw the floor covered with bags and suitcases. Sarah started opening them in surprise. Leo, why have you packed up all of mine and Alex's things? Oh, it's nothing. The day you had the abortion, I was so angry I listed the house for sale. A buyer is interested, just waiting for their financing to come through. Sarah's expression flickered through several emotions. My parents had paid for this house in full before our marriage. Selling it would actually simplify her plans. So why are you in such a hurry to pack? I answered calmly. We're moving. Alex and I decided that the four of us will go on a trip first. A trip through Xinjiang will take the better part of a month, so it's better to move out beforehand. The smile returned to Sarah's face. I watched her silently, waiting for her to spring her trap. According to Sarah's revised plan, we didn't go to Xinjiang. We went to her hometown, which was also Jacob's hometown. Sarah had prepared a long list of reasons to persuade me, but before she could even start, I had already come up with my own. It'll be a great opportunity for Alex to experience country life. Kids in the city rarely get to connect with nature, I suggested. My proposal brought a visible wave of relief to the three of them. Before we left, I made sure Sarah moved all her things out of the house and into storage at a friend's empty warehouse. On the day of our departure, she bought a large number of gifts, 2 of everything. The plan was for them to secretly meet with Jacob's parents after we arrived. Sarah even said she wanted to give them a surprise, which made Jacob ecstatic. I pretended not to notice their little scheme and loaded all the gifts into my car. Her hometown was a long way off, a full day and night of driving. On our first night there, Sarah and Jacob were eager to set their plan in motion. Sarah took Alex to Jacob's parents' house. The old couple was overjoyed to see the grandson they never knew they had, crying tears of joy. After dark, Sarah suggested we go night fishing. Honey, have you ever been night fishing in the wild? It'll be just the 2 of us tonight, no one else. What do you think? She gave me a playful wink. I used to love her eyes, but now they sent a chill down my spine. I knew exactly what she was planning, but seeing her eagerness still brought a pang of sadness. We had been married for 10 years. Did she truly feel nothing for me? I readily agreed. Sarah drove us to a remote fishing spot, a drive that took nearly an hour of twisting and turning down country roads. Not far from the spot was an old farmhouse. She parked the car in the yard and started directing me to unload our gear. Isn't this place great, honey? I rented the whole yard. Tonight, we're going to have a special time, just the 2 of us. After we unloaded everything, the sky had not yet completely darkened. I took the opportunity to survey the farmhouse. The yard was large, with fruit trees, a vegetable garden, a chicken coop, and a pig pen. I also noticed a doghouse by the gate, but the dog was gone. With me around, Sarah rarely did any work. I took a quick walk around the property, and by the time I returned, she had already set up a small stove to brew tea. The small table was laden with snacks. She was busy with her hands, but her eyes kept darting toward the main gate. Just before darkness fell completely, Jacob appeared. Sarah let out a deep sigh of relief and looked at me apologetically. Honey, Jacob wanted to take this opportunity to talk to you about Alex. He'll leave right after. You don't mind, do you? I shook my head. Of course I didn't mind. This was all part of their plan. Jacob sat down by the stove and poured me a cup of tea. I didn't take it. Instead, I got up and went to the middle of the yard to set up the tent. I had borrowed this professional-grade tent specifically from a friend who was an outdoor live streamer. Sarah asked if I needed help, but I refused. From the corner of my eye, I saw her exchange a look with Jacob, who gave her a slight shake of his head. After the tent was set up, Sarah called me over for some food and hot tea. Clutching my stomach, I made an excuse to use the outhouse, telling her I'd have tea when I got back. As I walked toward the outhouse, I quickly pulled out my phone. I opened my friend's live streaming channel. Over 100,000 people were watching, and on the screen were Sarah and Jacob, sitting by the stove, smiling at each other. The hidden camera in the tent was working perfectly. Jacob's voice came through crystal clear. "Sarah, do you think he'll drink the tea when he comes back?" "Sarah, don't worry. He'll drink anything I give him." "Jacob, it's been a long time since I've done anything like this. My heart is pounding. Are you sure this plan will work?" Sarah scoffed. "Honey, your plan is flawless. Even the best detective would be stumped." The live stream chat was flooded with question marks. Viewers were confused, asking if they were in the right stream. Others were telling everyone to stay, sensing that something dramatic was about to happen. I marveled at the professional equipment. The tent was a good distance from them, yet the picture and sound were incredibly clear. Then, Sarah opened the teapot and sprinkled a white powder into it. "Jacob, do you really need to add that much? That's enough to knock out a bowl." "Sarah, better safe than sorry. What if he only takes a small sip? We can't afford any mistakes tonight. If he makes it back to the city, it'll be much harder to deal with him." Jacob nodded in agreement. Sarah then added, "Honey, are you sure those pigs in the pen haven't eaten all day?" "Jacob, don't worry. Can't you hear them squealing? They're so hungry they're chewing on the fence. Once we knock him out, we'll toss him in there. By morning, there won't be anything left but bones." The chat exploded. "WTF, is this a live murder? Who are they going to kill? Someone call the police. This has to be a prank, right? But they look so serious." I muted my phone and walked back into the yard. Sarah smiled and waved me over. "Honey, hurry up. The tea is getting cold." I nodded and sat down without hesitation. She handed me the first cup, saying it was her way of sincerely apologizing. "If you don't drink it, it means you're still angry with me," she said, her eyes fixed on me until I took the cup. I glanced at the phone in my pocket. The screen was filled with comments screaming, "Don't drink it." Many said they had already called the police. I stalled for time, making small talk with them before finally drinking the tea. Sarah and Jacob shared a meaningful smile. They tried to get me to drink more, but I refused, instead grabbing an unopened bottle of juice and taking a large gulp. The dose in that one cup was enough to keep me sedated for 2 days. But to seal their fate, I had to drink it. After a short while, the drug began to take effect. My head swam, and I could no longer make out what Sarah was saying. She leaned in, close, her voice a distant buzz, saying I'd had too much juice, and that Jacob should help me relieve myself before we went fishing. Jacob slung my arm over his shoulder and helped me out of the yard. Sarah called out from behind me, "If Alex could see you two getting along, he would be so happy. I'm going to record a video for him right now." She followed us with her phone, recording everything. We stopped next to the pig pen. Jacob yelled in my ear, "Go ahead. Be careful, it's slippery here. Hey, I'm going to go set up the rods by the pond. Come over when you're done." Then he waved at Sarah. "Don't film him peeing. You don't want Alex to see that." They quickly walked away toward the pond. With my last ounce of strength, I fought to stay conscious. The police are coming, I thought. Even if the pigs get a few bites in, it won't kill me. Then, everything went black. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. My live streamer friend, who was sitting by my side, greeted me with a light punch on the arm. "I told you I should have come with you. Do you have any idea how close you came to getting killed?" I laughed and punched him back. "You think I'm an idiot? That bag of pig feed I brought wasn't just for show. The second they left, I fed those pigs until they were stuffed." That day, from the recording on Alex's smartwatch, I had heard their entire plan. They would lure me to the mountains of their hometown, get me drunk, and then push me into the pig pen while I was relieving myself. A dozen starving pigs would make quick work of an adult man. They would stage it as a drunken accident, and their video would be their alibi. After my death, my assets would naturally go to Sarah and Alex, and they were banking on my parents not fighting their own grandson for the inheritance. But I knew their plan. I played along, even suggesting the trip myself. They believed that by having Alex ask me to bring Jacob, I would never refuse. Then Sarah would suggest the countryside experience. They thought they were so clever, but they never imagined their perfect murder plot would be broadcast live to over 100,000 people. Sarah and Jacob were arrested on the spot. After I regained consciousness, The police came to take my statement. The evidence was irrefutable. I later heard that in custody, they immediately turned on each other, each claiming the other was the mastermind. The saddest part of it all was Alex. After his parents were arrested, he stayed with his grandparents. But having grown up in comfort, he quickly grew tired of rural life. He begged me to take him back to the city, promising that from now on, I would be his one and only real dad. But after everything that had happened, I had seen their true nature. I sold the house we had lived in and used the money to buy a bigger place just for myself. The freedom of earning my own money and spending it on myself was exhilarating. My parents urged me to find someone new, and I wasn't against the idea. But for now, I was content to let fate take its course.